I think like.
Oh well, where's Mo? There he is. Would it be fun without you? Is the whole point of you being here. I think you're muted, bro.
And the mute thing catches everyone out, man. Honestly, no matter how long.
What are you saying, man? You know, not the best of starts from us, but it's Friday, man. We're sure everyone will forgive us, man. What are you saying? I hope you're in good spirits, man.
Yeah, I am in good spirits, and you can't blame us, man, because there's a lot of things going on right now where clearly we're distracted looking at incoming reports. But I don't mind. I don't mind doing this whole thing, not even mentioning it once.
I mean, I don't want to say it, but how does it feel? I know we're at a different situation in relation to our club, but you can't help but have a feeling of jealousy with seeing big moves and other just movements being made with everyone, but us really saying that we spent 100 million.
Yeah, and I mean, haven't United spent less than us?
Yeah, somehow, yeah.
Well, or maybe they spent around the same amount now.
With Ronaldo, I mean, in terms of fees, probably less than us. I mean, you'd know better than me, but when you probably add in wages and that, I'm not too sure. But definitely, I mean, look at the players they've got for who we've got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the thing is, when you're talking about wages and that sort of thing, there's a difference, right? When people want to do like the meme sort of like Twitter banter analysis, they just look at the top level transfer fees and
just run the banter.
Yeah, run the banter. But when you actually want to do the thinking man's analysis, then you start looking at actually, well, age of the players, profile of the players, that sort of thing, the circumstances, the wages, the value for money in a sense. So then you do the thinking man's one. But on the meme, on the banter analysis, Arsenal are taking the L, but ultimately, all I'm saying, a lot of I see this trend a lot of the time where I get it, but I don't rate it. Where managers, fans, players, they're always trying to take the pressure off. And you know what I love? I love when people turn around and say, "Yeah, I need to win." There's no excuses.
There's no excuses.
Absolutely, that's where I'm at with Man United now. That's where I'm at with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. That's where I'm at with Ronaldo. You guys cannot come up with any excuses. You've got everything you need. You can't be going, "Oh yeah, but we need a CDM." Man City need a striker. You don't think Liverpool need players? They haven't really strengthened.
Chelsea would argue they haven't done all their business as well.
Exactly. Yeah, you absolutely need to just take that pressure, sit there and say, right now, today, United need to win the league, otherwise it's failure. League or Champions League, otherwise it's failure.
Yeah, I mean, why would Ronaldo go there? You think of everything. He's a great footballer, but as you said, you think of winning. And I mean, that should help them bring in other players. If they don't win, I mean, you're probably paying him an arm and a leg. It's not going to make any sense. So, yeah, man, we'll just have to see. And I think when you've got Ronaldo, you've got Bruno, you've got VAR in your pocket, it's definitely not going to be nice for the league, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, man. But they've got one hell of a team, and
how do they fit everyone in?
Well, yeah, I mean, but what great problems to have.
Yeah.
Problems to have. But it's the same with City, isn't it? Somehow Pep Guardiola does it. He commands respect to that squad, and somehow he does it. And even like, you think Firmino's happy at coming on as a sub and Jota starting or whatever, with Liverpool. It's just, you've just got to find a way of doing it. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now needs to do that as well. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing what happens, because if Ronaldo, some people try and claim as the best player in the world, I think everyone knows that Messi is clear. I think, being objective, that. Whenever I see that conversation on social media, I always look at who the person is making the Ronaldo point. It's always a United fan, a Real Madrid fan, or is Portuguese. That's very,
or just a Ronaldo fan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even that. I think we all know deep down Messi's the one. And when it looked like Ronaldo was going to Man City, everyone was admitting
true colours were shown. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but if Ronaldo wants to actually try and make a case, lead them to Champions League and Premier League glory, then we can start saying, "Hold on a second, look at that impact; it's huge."
So to play devil's advocate, a year into the season, or whenever the final will be played, they win exactly one of the two things, whether it's Champs or the Prem. Where are you at with that debate with Messi and Ronaldo then?
Well, for me, I'm not one of these people that gets necessarily distracted by the trophies that the players win. I think it's just very, very clear that Messi, to me, is the greatest player I've ever seen in my life. So I don't buy into that, because they won this. And people used to try and do that with the whole international argument. It's not like all of a sudden I find the I find that Messi is somehow better having won Copa America. I always knew that he was better. So it gives people an angle. But when you're being completely objective and you're looking at what you're seeing on the pitch, that's how you judge one man. You judge teams based on trophies. That's how I see it. What about you? Would it change anything for you?
Nah, like you said I'm very much where you are. I don't think there's a damn thing Ronaldo can do that can change my mind. I just think Messi is just a better footballer. I mean, strip away everything and you just hand them both a football, or say you're playing a 90-minute match. Messi is going to take my breath away much more than Ronaldo. Now, I'm a big fan of Ronaldo, what he's done, obviously his ability and his hunger and his drive. But I mean, there's no comparison for that. You made an interesting point when it comes to trophies, and that's another part that jars me because it's only relevant when it falls in favor of whatever argument you're making. If your player hasn't won anything, you're going to say, but this and that, and it's a team game and whatnot. It's unfortunate, man. Let me take the smile off your face now. I mean, we've got to speak about Arsenal, man. Not Man City yet. How did it feel last week? This week, obviously we beat West Brom. It's nice to win, clean sheet, and we scored. Where are you at with that? And obviously, does that help our confidence for you?
No, I enjoyed your post-match reaction on my channel because I knew you'd keep it real. Because it's one of those ones where you don't want to be like a killjoy. You don't want to say it's only West Brom, so we're not allowed to be happy. When you're starved of something, goals and wins, you have to take the enjoyment when it comes. That's part of sort of managing your own emotional state as a fan. You can't just be depressed all the time.
Facts.
Take the enjoyment where it comes, but with a pinch of realism, and that is what we expected. We expected to win, but I don't think we expected to win 6-0. So we can enjoy that difference between expectation and what was above expectation. And even with the defeat against Chelsea, for example, I expected to lose. I thought we'd lose 2-0, but I thought we'd make a better account of ourselves. So that's why you didn't see me losing my mind, because again, it was expectation, and the reaction is that it is sort of like correlated to that difference between expectation and what actually happened. Yeah. So with Arsenal, yes, great, beat West Brom, but my mind is now on Man City, and I'm nervous, man. Very, very nervous. Hopefully we can get some confidence from that West Brom game, but as you said, I think in your fan cam, that it's hard to really take confidence from a West Brom reserves and then Man City, who are probably the best team in the country.
Like you said, I can't, apart from anything, I'm more looking at the individuals. I mean, I don't know if Ramsdale's going to play, but the fact is he made his Arsenal debut, got a good reception by the fans, especially what was said online. And then obviously clean sheet is always nice for a keeper. Like you said, starving, Aubameyang hasn't been eating. It doesn't matter what level of food it is. You need to eat something to stay alive. So he scored. Strikers are a weird bunch. It wouldn't surprise me regardless of the result if he scores at the weekend. But like you said, you definitely can't get any real positives. I mean, one positive was the first 10 minutes looked a bit scary for me. I'll be completely honest with you, man. With their motivated young players, but we rid our luck and we got through. With that being said, what's your exact thoughts in relation to this Man City game? Because as you said, it's about, I think we all agree, it's quality of performance, but where are you at? Because I don't think he's even going to go with a 3 at the back. I think he's going with a 4. I really don't know. You struggle for optimism. I don't know what to ask you. It's just Man City, Arsenal. I think we all feel the same way.
It's Man City Arsenal. They're going to score 3 goals. That's it.
Raheem Sterling's going to out-jump Holding, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Listen, man, I feel like sometimes in world football, there's some matchups where, I think Man City would rather play Arsenal than they would Everton or Villa or Leeds. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think the way Arsenal play, they say in boxing, styles make fights. And these two team styles do not make for a fight. It just makes for a Man City win. Yeah. And, another one is like Atletico Madrid, for example. Yeah. Anytime Arsenal play Atletico Madrid, they're going to beat us. Let's say over 2 legs especially, because of styles.
Fact.
So, I just can't see Arsenal going and taking even a point up there, to be honest with you. But, look, Man City so far, lose to Tottenham, go and demolish Norwich, was it? Yeah. So, I don't know, man. Maybe we can borrow a game plan from our noisy neighbours up the road and try and replicate something. But yeah, do you hold any real hope that we're going to do anything of note against City?
I mean, the only hope I can have is like what we said when you first came on my channel. It's just blind optimism. Just the fact of the season was starting for me. Just the fact that it is a game of football. You never know what could happen. There's variables that can happen. City are not invincible. So they're the only positives I can find. Now, if you ask me my real opinions, I'm exactly where you are. Arsenal have shown me nothing during pre-season and last season, and granted, since the season has started, to suggest you're going to do anything against Man City. It's like you said, the Spurs example, that's great, but it's like I look at the Spurs, they look like they're all playing for Nuno. So that's going to happen. There's going to be an overperformance. They're going to try and match up what they can with City and maximize what they can't. We can't do that. It's like you see in our team, certain individuals will fight, certain people crumble, and I don't know where are you at with the mentality, because I change my mind every day, man, depending on who I speak to. I think it's down to the players, then I think it's the manager, and like you said, we probably will concede against City. So it wouldn't surprise me if Arsenal concede a goal and heads drop. So it's like the mentality is what I get scared of, because like what happens then? We might start off well for 10 minutes and we concede. Do we start over-respecting City and can't wait to post games where we can, talk about the fact that they're Premier League champions as we did with Chelsea without talking about the mistakes we made? I don't know, bro. I really don't.
I think in terms of mentality, it's very shaky at the moment. I don't think that the club culture is as such that creates a strong mentality. And I think we saw against West Brom as well in the first kind of 10, 15 minutes, they were shaky. And actually we needed that goal to settle us. And we're lucky in a way that the way the goal came about, Saka, brilliant work, but we're lucky it was sort of a tap in for Aubameyang on a plate. And
trash defending as well, if I'm completely honest. That as well. Trash defending from them as well in the build-up as well. Yeah, a lot of favourable things in that.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like, we got a bit of fortune there to settle our nerves. There will be no such luxury against Man City. If we start poorly 100%. And we start our own mistakes, our own self-inflicted mistakes start to create more and more nerves, it's a recipe for disaster. And unfortunately, that's what I think we're going to see. So what we saw against West Brom were sort of, in my opinion, Arsenal's true colours in the first 10, 15 minutes, where a bit of a lack of confidence, a bit shaky, masked by the gift of easy goals.
And then the onslaught of it, 100%.
And then it was one thing after another. And it's easy for that gift to be accepted when you know you're playing a depleted West Brom team. Even if we were to get a gift of a goal against Man City, I don't think the mentality is strong enough right now for the players to think, we can go and build on this now. I still think they'll be sort of like looking over their shoulder like, oh, Man City, you're going to be hitting us hard now. And, I know you play football as well, So when people play, they might be able to relate to this. People that don't play, they might not be able to relate to this like mentally. But sometimes when you're really, really up against it against the team, if you're 1-0 up and you know that other team is a bit better than you.
I know where this is going, and
it's wave after attack. Sometimes mentally you kind of think to yourself, this afternoon, these 90 minutes will be easier if they just score. Do you know what I mean? Like then they kind of back off a little bit, it becomes less intense. And it requires like proper courage, proper concentration to fend off that and to maintain that appetite for the fight. And I don't think Arsenal necessarily have got that. I kind of feel like we almost think that the inevitable's coming and that will make our life easier in a way. That's honestly what I see on this team. And as I say, not everyone's going to be able to relate to that because it's a
defeated mindset, 100%.
Yeah, it's a weird way of thinking, but it happens on a football pitch.
That's the thing with us. It's like, for me, I just want us to go out there and almost be fearless. It's a bit of what you're saying, but the difference, because to me, if you know the papers are going to say the same old things, the pundits are going to say the same old things, you lot have been in this sort of situation before, so you should almost have an effort sort of mentality in that they're a good team. Let's see why they're a good team. Let's be fearless. I mean, we can't learn anything more. Like, if Marie starts, I already know you're not of the level, so it's like you can't really shock me anything more. The worst that could happen is you drop a clanger. Now, I might be upset with you, but in the grand scheme of things, it's water for ducks back. We've been there. And it's like you said, it's the mentality thing, whether we've hold a lead. I actually think scoring might be the worst thing for us because we didn't plan for it. We're like, what's going on here? It's almost like when we got battered at Anfield a few years ago.
But see, that's the thing. It takes more courage to win than it does to lose. Yeah. So if you go in, score that early goal and say, we're going to be resolute, that takes a lot of courage. Whilst it's actually easier to say, okay, you get a couple of goals and then you back off and it looks easier for us, that sort of thing. Not that anyone would ever throw a game like that. But when these thoughts creep into your mind, when you think to yourself, oh, it's going to be hard to fend them off. It's going to be like a tough day at the office to fend them off. When you're thinking like that, it doesn't make for a positive outcome. And that's what I think Arsenal are mentally right now. So that's kind of like my concern with our fragility of mind currently at Arsenal.
That as well. And on top of that, I'd add in the cocktail that I think Arteta feels the exact same way as us on top of his mistakes. And I think that nervousness transmits into the team, coupled with overloading them on information. I know Arsene Wenger had a lot of problems, but one thing I kind of admired with him, and it can go wrong, is that he could make good players feel great. And he can make average players continuously feel they could go out there and be positive. He's almost like, quote unquote, he'd almost delude them sort of thing. And it's like, I don't think Arteta does even that. And I just feel that's what we need. Like, I'm really scared of our confidence. Like, the way we're playing, for me, we haven't got confidence. So any little confidence, you need to hold on into it and not let it drop a level. And I think quickly, with this defense, having what happened against Brentford, what's happened against Chelsea, if we get knocked for 6 and whatnot, it's going to be even worse. So this is why where are you at with the formation? Because I'm just really just of this 3 at the back, damage limitation, 2-0, as you said. I'll take that. We can move on. But I don't know if we're going over 4.
I think, again, teams that are clearly better than us, I think it should be 3 at the back. So Man City, I expect him to play 3 at the back. After we're seeing what happened at Chelsea, how far we got stretched, the nature of their goals, where their goals came from. If he doesn't do it, boy, he's going to make life very difficult for himself. He's going to get a lot of criticism, because we know Man City, they're going to potentially even play without a striker.
That scares me even more, bro.
Yeah, and then we know it will be those midfielders sneaking in, not knowing where that attack's going to come from. You need that proper coverage. And when we say 3 at the back, obviously what we mean is that when we're being pinned, it's 5.
That's it. Yep. I'm happy you've made that clear.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't want anyone to think that we're going from 4 to 3 at the back. Effectively, what we're saying, out of respect for Man City and what they can do, is that 5 in defense. And really, people oversimplify the formational side of things, because there's a completely different formation when you have the ball and when you don't have the ball. And there's a different formation even at different points of the game based on different score lines. That's game management. You're not going to be truly 3 at the back if you're 2-0 up with 10 minutes to go, for example. So, and also, you're not going to be going 3 at the back and pushing both wing-backs up past the halfway line against Man City away. It's kind of reckless. You're going to have to play with a bit more balance and respect. So, going back to the mental side of things, right, as well, I think Arsenal are in that sweet spot right now, unfortunately for us, where they're sort of like a big enough scalp, and there's enough expectation that, I play for Arsenal, we should have a good account of ourselves, to not be overly defensive and overly fearful. But then we're in that difficult spot, because whilst that's true, we're just actually nowhere near good enough. So Arteta might feel like he can't go there and show no ambition because we're Arsenal, but actually we're only Arsenal by name, and we're actually sort of, Southampton.
Yeah, no, we're North London Red, like they used to have in Pro Evo. We're not a licensed team at this point. We haven't earned the right for any of that. And you made a great point there. And that's my problem with Arteta, because I feel if you're going to be damned if you do, damned if you don't, at least be extremely defensive, so I can sit there and say, okay, it didn't work, or not extremely attacking, but just have a bit more about yourself. It's almost like a halfway house. And when you've got a halfway house where you want to be defensive, but you want to attack, you're clearly overloading your attackers with too much info, so there's no creativity. We've got, as much as we try to defend, we've got bad habits. Like, the players are not switched on, like you saw with Marie. Tierney's my guy, but Tierney and Saka were not switched on against Chelsea. So it's almost a fallacy. And on that topic, what were the worst things you saw against Chelsea? So by that logic, what would you like to see bettered in the game at City beyond everything?
Yeah, well, Chelsea, for me, it was there weren't that many players that I thought dropped absolute stinkers, where there'd be a compilation of sort of like stupid moments, but it was actually just a tactical mess. It was so easy for Thomas Tuchel to, win that tactical battle. And actually,
didn't have to try.
I was speaking to Adrian Clark, who does the breakdowns on Arsenal, and I asked him the question, because I was having this debate with a friend of mine. Was it that Mikel Arteta tweaked and improved his tactics at halftime, and therefore it was a better showing in the second half? We didn't concede in the second half. Or was it that Thomas Tuchel was saying that, okay, now I'm just going to go back in my shell a tiny bit, game's won, no need to risk it? And I was unequivocal. as was Adrian Clark, in saying that no, it was nothing of Arteta's doing. It was actually that Thomas Tuchel had already won the tactical battle and then did what a good manager does and says, we'll take that 2-0. So what I want to see is more on Arteta. The first thing I want to see, as you've said already, Deluded, 3 at the back. That's 3 centre-backs. That's what I want to see as a first thing. And then the second thing that I want to see is that when we looked at Chelsea, the danger came from balls being played into Lukaku, him pinning our defenders back, and then they obviously had people playing off of him. Now, what I'd like to see against Man City is if Kevin De Bruyne is in the team, we know it will be him. I want to starve their key man. Now, whoever, and it's tough against City because so many players can do that job. But I want to make sure that we respect the ability of the players on the wing, let's say a Mahrez and a Sterling, but also starve the key man who finds those players. So Mikel Arteta, he should know exactly the threat and where it comes from in Man City. So I'm looking for a bit of that tactical nous, and he's got that head start against City because he was in that setup for so long. That's what I'm looking to see more than anything.
That's and I can't add anything on. That's exactly what I want to see. For me, the main thing is the mentality. Just leave that game. And I've known we played the Premier League champions because what can I say? We finished 8th. We lost to the Premier League champions. There's no harm in that. It's just about how you go down in that regards, man.
Yeah,
Do you feel? Where you at with Arteta and the pressures that's on Arteta? Because I wouldn't say pressure's relieved off him off midweek, but obviously if you lose, there's that added one you've lost again, and it makes this City one even more unbearable beyond it is. Do you think a win could do a lot for him? It relieves a lot of pressure. Do you think if we lose, there's still that, there's even worse pressure, or do you think we're just still in that moment like it's a different day, same sort of stuff, really?
No, I think the pressure right now on Arteta is like a yo-yo. It's very choppy.
Yeah.
It's very sort of it's not balanced or anything, because it's quite an emotion. It's quite emotional right now being an Arsenal fan. The reactions are not very measured because we're so frustrated with some of the weird decisions, and with the transfer window, it always gets us a bit emotional anyway.
On seats anyways, yeah.
So I think with Arteta, if he does lose, if we lose 1-0, 2-0, and decent account of ourselves, maybe it will be one of the first times this season where there won't be that emotional reaction. Anything more than that, and what I fear will happen, I think will give us an emotional reaction. But he has the benefit here of actually, if he does go and somehow pull a win out the bag, then I think that will be 2 wins back to back. And I know the West Brom was only West Brom, but that's what will go down on paper. And I think that a lot of pressure will be relieved. It's hard, because it's not like we have a meter that tells us pressure on, pressure off.
Yeah.
But we sense it as Arsenal fans. And to my frustration, I actually feel like what happened at West Brom has relieved some pressure.
Same. I don't know. I'm with you as well. Yeah.
And it absolutely shouldn't have. Because, I made this point in my fan cam, yeah? However bad our tactical setup was against Chelsea, crazily enough, West Brom's tactical setup against us was even worse. The line that they were playing was suicide. It was suicide. So there should be no pressure that's lifted off a game that we should have won, where it was a reserve team and their tactics were absolutely awful. It was more about them, in my opinion, than it was about us. Because as we've said, we started off shaky. We didn't just come out and all of a sudden start playing great football. Even our goals, some of them were,
half-ish, man.
Yeah, like look at the Aubameyang attempted overhead kick that happened to go to Pepe.
Pepe hit the post and then it trickled to him.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like these are vintage goals. Second half, there was some nice goals there. Aubameyang's finish, Odegaard's
flick, what a flick that was.
Yeah, lovely stuff. But overall, it wasn't sort of like vintage stuff. So I don't know why I feel like that. And so you said that you kind of agree. People in the comments, I'd like to know whether they kind of feel. Have they had that impression that the pressure's been lifted off of Arteta? I find that frustrating because we need to keep that pressure up on him.
I think it has. I wouldn't say. Do you know what it is? It's a weird one. I don't think you can convincingly say it has been lifted off him. I don't think you think it hasn't. I just feel there's a lot of optimism. We won 6-0. A lot of fans were scared. A lot of fans lack balance because Arsenal is the best place to be when we win, the worst place to lose. Yeah. And I agree with you. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like it's a positive, more sentiment now. As much as I feel there should be pressure, if you can benefit from that, then fair play. If you can't, it will be back on you come the end of the game at 12:30. But I don't get it. It's like I think think Arteta's been afforded a lot of luxuries. I don't know why people behave like he's an Arsenal legend or just got this divine right at Arsenal. I know he won the FA Cup and whatnot, but it's not like if it was Cesc Fabregas, then I'd understand. Or with United, with Oli, for all the criticisms, there's that emotional attachment. I don't know why people can't see Arteta for what he is and praise or critique him where he deserves it. On that, I want to ask you something as well. If it comes to it, do you sack both of Edu or Arteta, or do you think one goes before the other? And which one would you do if it had to be that?
It'd be Arteta. If it had to be one, it'd be Arteta. But more than Arteta, it'd be Kroenke. You can't sack.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, but that's a given. But you see, this is the thing that I always say. Am I happy with Edu? Nah, I don't feel like he has like pulled anything great out the bag.
Not earned his chops.
Yeah, but again, like I always make this point that it's a hidden role, isn't it? It's harder to judge technical directors. With managers, you can talk about win ratios and this and that or whatever, but league finishes. With technical directors, it's much harder because it's behind the scenes. So for me, I feel as though what do I truly care about is Arsenal climbing that league table. Would that happen as a result of a new technical director, or is there more chance of a direct improvement in us climbing the league table as a result of a new manager? Clearly a new manager, right? So that's why I'd go on that. But my caveat to that is that from what I can deduce from Arteta's performance as technical director, I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied. I don't know how you feel about him.
I'm like you. I mean, obviously, the way that the window is shut and we kind of have to work with what we've got. I can only really directly blame you for what you do. So by the logic of that, it's Arteta. I actually think if it comes to it, the club are going to pick Arteta over Edu just because it seems like they've betted on him. You know, it's not going to cost much to clip Arteta when the time eventually comes. They've made him a head manager. It just feels like Edu's potentially more dispensable than him. It seems like Arteta's got his foot under the door that much deeper. For me personally, like you said, Arteta, but if it was today, do you know what? It'd probably be Edu, you know, because again, like you said, Kroenkes need to go. We're kind of working with pennies, but it's like, I don't know what we're trying to do. And if you're the technical director, you should have a mandate. You as an invincible, you should know what Arsenal footballers look like that midfield. You should kind of be putting pressure on Arteta to kind of show something in that regards. And with Edu, I was really sold a dream, quite frankly, with him, because he used to say little things when he came on, like when he first came in, that, I like to travel with the team, feel the emotion. If this isn't kind of the sort of rhetoric around the non-negotiables, and I can't really see it. And it's like, I can, like you said, I can only judge you for what I see. So any of the signings, as much as they're Arteta's men, and if Arteta wants them and you're bringing them to him, fair play. You could say no, but fair play. It's also a reflection of you. You know, I don't want to praise, like you said, our neighbours from down the lane, and they haven't done much, but that Patrici guy was at Juventus. They've got some players that have played in the Italian league and they're still linked with some, and they'll probably sign some Italian nationals. I don't really see what Edu's mandate is. It's like, again, if we needed Ramsdale, we needed Ben White, what I hope they develop, I can't ask anymore. But I mean, we could have probably had someone within the club to identify these targets or these mandates. I don't get it. And I don't see succession planning with him.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, you would say with Edu, if we're being really, really like one-dimensional about it, Brazilian guy, Brazilian links, what Brazilian signings have you made? Gabriel.
That's me.
Yeah, Gabriel, I'm happy with him overall, but jury is still out on him. We can't say for sure whether
is that even is, because a year before that we dealt with Pepe at Lille. So I mean, someone else could have said, you know what, I like Gabriel. You know, he's Brazilian. You can obviously talk to him and relate to your countrymen. But it's like that's me. I can't specifically see what you've done. Like I thought I was under the illusion that you was the guy for Martinelli. Then it obviously came out it was the scout who left, and like you said, Brazilian. So it's like, what's going on?
Yeah, but even if we do, let's say, for argument's sake, give him Martinelli. We say, well done, tick for Martinelli. Then we also have to look at Willian. Willian's a bigger...
I completely forgot he was a footballer here. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, even as a free transfer, I think he's one of Arsenal's worst ever signings. I really do. He was awful. We made 55 people redundant in the same summer we signed him on mega money. And
when you put it like that, my words. Yeah. To finance him. Yeah.
And, you know, like, maybe I'm too into the numbers, but I did a little calculation thinking about what wages Willian would have been on. Yeah. Even if he was on like, I mean, basically, I won't bore you with the numbers, but
no, man, I find this interesting, and I'm sure people do take it to town, man, because it provides a different scale of things, man.
Basically, what I'm saying is that, you know, if we assumed, I'll have to revisit it, but if we assume just like a modest average salary for those 55 people? Yeah, let's do it. Go on then.
Go on, man. Do it, man, because it puts things into perspective.
Yeah, £50,000 a year for 55 people. That's 2.75 million. Divide that by 52. Yeah, that's you get that. You get £53,000. So what I'm saying is, if Willian was on £53,000, yeah, if Willian was on £53,000 a week, annual salary becomes 2.756 million. That equates to those 55 people that were made redundant on £50,000 each. I think the reality is that average salary for those 55 people that were made redundant is not going to be as high as £50,000. But even if you want to get even more technical about it, because I know there'll always be one comment: total employment cost when you're hiring someone is different to the salary that they get. Even the total employment cost after you pay national insurance contributions, bonus, pension, all of that.
I'm learning. Loving this.
Even all of that is going to be less than £50,000 in my opinion. So for me, it was a direct. That's why it really hurt me. It really upset me when Arsenal signed Willian, because a washed-up Chelsea reject on a 3-year deal, where you could clearly tell all you had to do was speak to any Chelsea fan. They'll tell you 1 in 5 games they're happy. It was so.
And we don't even get that now. Like, you've got a worse Willian because of Arteta's tactics as well.
Exactly.
Really.
Yeah, exactly. And he's older and less motivated. You know,
he's got a payday.
Do you know when we talk about the class, the values, and the traditions of Arsenal Football Club, with decisions like that, to me, they died. They died with it. When Gunnosaurus is being furloughed, do we need to furlough people? Do we need
come
to
out of all the expenses at this club? Yeah, facts.
Stuff like that. And then you go and sign Willian. And when we look at it, what was that Willian signing all about? To me, that was all about agents, greedy agents. I honestly feel like one day, if there's a signing that we make where it's really beneficial to Arsenal and we can't figure it out, we're like, how the hell did that happen? That will be the equal and opposite to this Willian signing.
Literally.
Do you know what I mean? It will be a case of saying, all right, Raiola or Mendes, whoever it is, Jabur Chan, we did you that favor. Now we're calling one in. Maybe that's the murky world of football, because the Willian one made no sense.
No sense at all. And that's the thing. And that's why I'm kind of getting on to Edu, because, again, I know managers clash. I know if you've got a technical director, a manager can hide behind, well, you're not giving me the players, I can't do several things. And the technical director can say, I'm bringing you players, you're not doing much. But it's like, Edu, that's your legacy as well. So you must have sanctioned it. Same like with, I know he's not played enough, but Runnison, you can always veto these decisions and you always have an opinion. So it's like, that is your legacy. You stood firm in Willian. You know, he told us he was banging on about being Premier League proven. Arteta was talking about how he can help us in the Champions League or whatever. Or get back to that. It doesn't make sense. It screams short-termism. It ultimately screams no plan. It screams reactive. Like, I have to ask myself, how long was Willian on your radar? Was he a player you was looking at in the duration of that season ending? Or did you just say, well, he's become available, he's experienced, adaptable, it could be a short-term fix, and then, you know, you get what you pay for when you take shortcuts, man. You buy cheap equipment, it breaks, and you have to keep buying more. This is the thing.
Absolutely. It's a false economy. Exactly that. You know, I've just seen one comment pop up from CJ, and it says, I'm hoping Josh being here the other day was to put pressure on Edu, would at least show they actually care a little about the shortcomings. In my fan cam after that game, I said specifically, it was the last thing I said, do not be fooled, do not be manipulated. Josh is not there for Arteta, for Edu, for the fans, for the club. He is there for Amazon Prime. That's the only reason. Never forget this season.
I forgot about it. Yep.
Never forget this season. This is Amazon Prime propaganda. That's all it is. Anytime you see something, you think, oh, that's a nice surprise. It's a surprise because Amazon are there.
And that's the thing. It's like, why wouldn't, if you're recording us on Amazon documentaries, wouldn't you want your club being shown in a positive light? I mean, it's going to be fantastic, a fantastic documentary, a fantastic bit of entertainment, but not for us. Speaking of ownership, I know you've probably spoken of it, and I don't know how much legs there are to it, but are you aware of the, Qatari interest allegedly in our club? And if it is real, where are you with that, if it is true?
Well, do you know what? God, I find myself really torn, because
that's why I wanted to ask you this, because I know I'm going to get a wide range of perspectives with this beyond the obvious.
10 years ago, when I believed in financial fair play, I said, I remember I even spoke to Ken Fryer. I was at a game and I spoke to Ken Fryer, and I said to him, like, I really, really want Arsenal to do the things the right way, not to buy success, but to earn success.
Fact.
To when we win a league, to feel like actually we've won it with hair end boys, and not, I didn't say hair end,
values.
Academy boys, yeah, we're staying true to our values and actually what football was meant to be about, And since the erosion of financial fair play, seeing what the money that all these other clubs
seeing today,
I just think to myself, I don't know where I stand anymore. I wouldn't mind that. Now I feel like I'm not being true to myself, because ultimately I'd still love to do it like that, where you can have real pride in what you've achieved. But now I'm just like, fine, man, we win the lottery, who cares? I'm sick.
I'm like that too, man.
I feel really aggrieved that we put all of this belief in these regulations and they turned out to be toothless. And I kind of feel like, then why should we try and do things the right way if the wider environment in which you plan what the right way is then changes? How are you ever meant to plan? So the only issue I have with a takeover is who the people are. And when you look at the World Cup that's going to be in Qatar, right? The amount of, let's say, Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, Indians from the subcontinent have gone into Qatar, had their passports confiscated, been left to work in squalid conditions, died.
This is exactly why I wanted to ask you about this, because there's this scale of it as well, beyond just money and buying big players and whatnot.
Yeah. Daniel Ek is one thing where, he might underpay artists, for example, but there's for me, no serious moral allegations against him that I'm aware of. But when it comes to that Qatari footballing landscape, actually there are some serious human rights and moral issues that I'm not comfortable with. I need to do more research on the Qatari rumours to see whether it's something I'm truly comfortable with. But ultimately, very regretfully, I am at that stage now where, man, let's just do the takeover. We've already got someone who's a billionaire, who I never wanted to own Arsenal, and we're already doing things in the wrong way anyway. But we're doing things in the wrong way to get failure.
That's what people forget. We're spending money, we're doing immoral things. It's just in vain.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at. But as I say, I need to do a bit more research. But you know what's mad? I saw on Twitter today, right? One of the girls that does a fan cam on my channel, Melina, I think, and I need to go and look into this, I think she was doing a Spaces, and the guy who runs the Qatari Twitter account was on there.
Wow.
And was talking to her and confirming certain things. Now, that to me is kind of mad, so I need to go and DM her. And
that's a very mad. Wow. They're very open like that. Wow.
Yeah, so it's mad. I might even see if I can grab Melina and talk about it, do a little video, put it on my channel, because
do that, man.
I mean, that's weird to me. I just and it makes me a bit cynical. Like, is he just trying to get some social media
engagement for some weird little project going on somewhere? 100%.
Yeah, but then I think to myself, wait a second, if I was a billionaire, I'd have better things to do with my time than that.
Yeah.
So I'm confused.
It could just be for pleasure. Literally, it could just be bored. He's a billionaire. Like, I'm sure they've got a lot of time on their hands when you reach that level.
Yeah, man. So who knows? Yeah, maybe it is just a bit of boredom, or maybe it's like a very pie in the sky, I would like to, but there's not real seriousness behind it. Ultimately, people do that in all walks of life, don't they? They say, oh yeah, I really want to do this. Next time you catch up with them, oh, how'd you get along? Oh yeah, I haven't started it yet,
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Do you think Stan Kroenke would negotiate if it did? Because they got a lot of money, and I don't think it's a Daniel Ek sort of thing where he's gonna have to, do a consortium, and there's other people who we don't know that could be involved, and then there's another elephant in the room. Do you think he'd negotiate? Because he's a money man, and he certainly won't sell unless conditions are met.
Everyone would negotiate. Listen, you could pay me enough to do this topless, to do this stream topless. If you pay for this right now and offer me £5, I'm going to be like, no, don't be silly. You offer me 5 billion, of course I'm doing it. So there's a value
like that, of course.
to everything, and that's what it's going to take. I think Kroenke is. Look, he's banked on the Super League, and now that looks like it's not going to happen for Arsenal, at least anytime soon. It will still rear its ugly head, in my opinion.
Fact.
But I think the other thing that he might be banking on is the sheer desperation of Arsenal fans, whether that's Daniel Ek or Dangote or this guy. I think
forgot about Dangote.
Yeah. So I feel like he might be just thinking, look, when people are emotionally involved in a product, you can't go and set up your own Arsenal. If it was a cinema, if it was a gym, if it was anything else, you can go and set up your own and do it better. You can't go and set up your own Arsenal. And that's
too much emotion with this.
Yeah, that's why he might monetize, he might leverage that emotion for his exit strategy. So if the Qatari wants to submit a bid based on emotion rather than market forces, then yes, I think Kroenke will negotiate.
I mean, for me, I agree with you. It's like I look at Arsenal and it's like, first things first, like you said with the FFP, like I don't know too much about finances, but from the basics, who wouldn't want to do things morally without spending with, like you said, not everyone wants to. Obviously, time has come. It's been broken. I think the very people that tried to govern it, they were in it as well. We were, we had Wenger. He was still trying to fight it. I'm like you. I almost feel sick to my stomach to say it. But, I mean, you've got to adapt to the times. Everybody's fighting dirty. How long are we going to cry about fighting clean? At one point, does it become stupidity? Exactly. So you're 100% correct in there. For me, I don't know. And again, it becomes a bit political, but I'd have to wonder all of a sudden, why does the Qatari royal family want to buy Arsenal? Now, when I look past the fan point of it, we're in London, so there's probably a lot of stuff. Like you said, there's the World Cup, so there's getting your foot in the door in terms of sporting things and stuff like that. There's also indirectly you're investing in England, so there's probably some diplomatic sort of stuff you can get around there because we're still paying taxes. As you said, it's a business, so I'm a bit scared. And for me, I don't think it's going to happen because we've been here with Dangote, we've been here with Daniel Ek. I need to see some real progress beyond words, if I'm honest.
Absolutely. I don't think it's going to happen either. But, the Qataris have got a lot of investments in this country, huge number of investments in this country. So, just go and do a little bit of research. They're in Harrods. That's
why I'm so confident. I would love it to happen. It could all tie in perfectly.
But Harrods is like, that was a British institution. It's world famous. When people come to London, they go there. Arsenal, it could be described in the same way. It's a world famous London institution. People from all over the world come there. So you could look at it and say, oh, hold on a second. Maybe it fits in with their investment strategy to date. But, the problem is you cannot force someone to sell something.
That's the thing.
A 5 billion offer, Kroenke's taking it. Because it's it will make us the most expensive sports organization in the world. So I'm talking about silly money here, unrealistic, silly money. Kroenke will listen. So it depends. To what extent do they love Arsenal? Are they desperate to own Arsenal? And are they willing to pay over the odds for it? Who knows?
There's that, and obviously the fact that I doubt it will happen as well. But there's the fact of obviously I look at the practical steps. You buy it now, great, cool. But what are we going to do to move forward? You look at Manchester City. You look at Pellegrini and Mancini. They were the forefathers, but they had to get it wrong. They've spent big money and got Grealish, but they've also at the time spent stupid sums on the Joes, the Alanos, who was a decent player, and just simply got it wrong. So it's like, are you prepared? And do you really understand the journey Arsenal has to get into? And that's before we talk about kind of what we spoke about earlier. You need a technical director that's about their business. You need a manager. You need all the other aspects. I don't want to say it because we praise Spurs, but you look at Chelsea, they've got Marina. They've obviously got it coming from the top with Roman Abramovich. There's that sort of thing. Now, again, if he doesn't, or whoever's the royal family owner, if he doesn't want to do it, are you going to delegate someone? And then it becomes a question of what is that person now like for me?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a really, really good point. People think that it's just a plug and play, get the money, you're done. But actually, no, it's not the case. And also with, I made this point in the transfer window that Arsenal don't need to worry about their transfer budget. They don't need to increase their transfer budget. They need to increase their GDP. That's what we're competing with. We're competing against countries.
Actual countries, nations. I don't think people get it.
And the point is, even if we do go and get a billionaire Qatari owner, we're still competing against other billionaire owners, So there's no guarantee that success will come overnight, and it still becomes a project. And what will actually happen is that it will be billionaires competing for titles and the rest doing what they're trying to do. Right now, we're part of the rest. But the more billionaires there are and the more kind of slush funds there are, the more competitive that group becomes. And that means that you don't win the league every year. You win it maybe once every 2, 3, 4, 5 years, depending on how many billionaires there are. So there's no easy solution. The proper solution was regulation in football, and that has just died.
Do you ever think that's going to happen? Because I say this, and I know clearly it's not looking like it, but it's like the money in football. We say it every year, but I think we're probably about 5 or so years, but it really does look unstable now. Like something's got to give, and there has to be some sort of grand reset, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, there does need to be eventually, because ultimately you look at the transfer fees and that sort of thing, and the Premier League has like the bubbles massively increased, because when you look at the globalization of football, how easily accessible it is with digital television and now streaming and all that sort of stuff, it's become easier and easier. But I don't see a huge shift technologically or globally now in terms of reaching wider audiences. There's definitely more audiences to hit, like some of the Asian audiences, that sort of thing. But
I think India is underpriced personally as a footballing nation, considering there's 1 billion people. So
but I think in our lifetime, there's nothing sort of like infrastructure-wise, like digital infrastructure. You're not going to go in. What I'm saying is, you're not going to go and market it to a different planet.
Yeah.
I think we're quite close from saturating, in a way, the product, because it's so accessible to so many people over the world now. There's not that much growth. Whilst 10 years ago, the Premier League wasn't the world's biggest league. It wasn't beamed to so many different countries. So the point that I make there is that you've seen it with a team like Barcelona already.
Yeah.
They were banking on the Super League. They were spending beyond their means and banking on the Super League. If the Super League doesn't happen, then we will have to hit some form of reset. And I think regulation should be coming in. And obviously we've got Tracy Crouch with the Department of Culture, Media and Sport in the UK running that investigation about football ownership. Perhaps that can bring in some regulation. But in my opinion, Deluded, I don't think they will be able to do it, because we've seen financial fair play fail. And the thing that has always stunned me about football and the lack of regulation is that when you look at football, fans don't really begrudge, or no one in football really begrudges people with the talent making the money. So when it's footballers making loads of money, fine. It doesn't really matter too much. Or managers making loads of money, it doesn't matter too much. But the one part of football where there's zero talent and the money gets sucked out and things happen that upset people and is not in players or teams or fans' best interest, is agent-led. You get mega rich agents and you get super agents. I cannot believe agents aren't run unregulated in a way that sort of says this is how much you're allowed to make per deal in terms of like percentages.
To play devil's advocate, is that fair though for an agent?
So. Yeah,
considering how much the clubs make, because I stand on the side with agents, because I feel it's the wild west. Maybe it's because I've been exposed to that side and I see a lot of dodgy dealings that clubs do. I think they're all dirty. So it's like if you're gonna do something like that, it's all of them. It's like sometimes a lot of these clubs, they just quite frankly are not good to their players. There's a lot of political reasons why players might not play. They might not get deals. There was an example of a player who forgot his name now, but he legitimately wanted to sign a new deal. He just didn't give the terms, so they filtered things out about his private life, and there's things like that. And I also see the flip side of it when you have a bad agent. And I think it actually kind of is a talent, because if you take it away and just pull an agent in something else, they're just doing the best for their client. Now, if you want to make money, that's fair play. And I go back to the players, because Ozil's not going to get 300k a week if somewhere along the line the club are not making a tenfold. Might be an exaggeration, but a tenfold. Mino Raiola isn't going to get them fees unless the clubs do. And I look at Mino Raiola, I think they just don't like. There's a reason they don't like him. Like, because he's a difficult person, because he wants to make himself rich in the others. Of course, for me, the clubs are going to like an agent that just gives them what they want. So for me, if there's regulation, it's got to be with everyone, bro.
I think there should be regulation personally, even on players and salaries and that sort of thing. But for me,
that's what I mean, everywhere.
Yeah, so I'm all for that. But I think especially on agents, because that's where money goes out of the game. I don't mind when it goes out of the game with footballers, because they are the product themselves. But when a club makes more money, I don't mind that, because that money then goes down to players and to transfers and that sort of thing. But agents are not part of football. Let's say, for example, agents were banned. Football would continue. You can't ban clubs. You can't ban players and have football continue. Agents are not actually necessary, and some players don't.
But then how do their contracts get negotiated? Because not everyone's a good negotiator.
I hear that, but not everyone has an agent.
Yeah, that's clear. But they know their worth, though. They know their worth, or they know enough to say, okay, I don't want the agent. So somewhere along the line, there's education. So it's like, would you trust the clubs to educate their players? Because I don't even think they brief them on social media a lot now. Fair enough, social media is just developing.
But look, you have a fit and proper persons test for club owners. Why don't you have a fit and proper persons test for agents? Why is there no standards, no regulation, no control whatsoever about agents? So I think that's an oversight in the world of football. I would like to see, ultimately, when Arsenal has to pay more for a certain player, who bears the brunt of that? Who pays? Because when you look at the cycle of funds in football, it's you and I who are putting the money in. Yeah, it's us. The players take the money out, and so do the agents. I don't mind it when it's the players, but when it's the agents, that makes it more expensive for us. Ticket prices and all these TV deals and all of that sort of stuff. Anytime a club has an expenditure, that's where it comes from. It comes from us or the fans even watching on TV. Some of those forces are acceptable to me, not the agents. I do not want to be having to pay more for my season ticket because Mino Raiola doesn't think he's rich enough. They don't add anything to the beautiful game.
That's harsh. Obviously, in football, I think it is, but it's like I see some agents do a lot, man. Like there's sometimes footballers they can't even get out of a situation at a club, and they work their magic. Like you look at Mendes, he's done a lot, and even today. But I hear you, though. I definitely hear you in that. It should be regulated.
I'm not saying agents need to be kicked out of football. I'm just saying cap it, regulate.
No, I'm in agreement with that 100%.
Yeah.
So there's just too much finances. And even for me, the individuals connected with clubs, for me, it's the people that you don't hear about. You hear about Mino Raiola. You don't specifically know who is benefiting from a deal at clubs at all time. And it's that sort of silence that I think needs to I just think football needs more clarity for me, bro. Just in general.
I think I'd love that as well. I think that's a really good point. That it should be led that when you make a transfer, it just gets put out there. Like, for example, anyone can go on to a government website today and look at any house that sold more than 6 months ago and look at the value that house price sold for. Public information. You can go and look at any company, who are the officers who run that company. That's just public information.
This is what I mean, yeah.
Football needs to be like that. How much was paid for the transfer? How much was paid to this agent? All of that all needs to be transparent.
And I think a lot of that stuff, if it did come into place, then I think there's a lot less pressure on players. Because as you said, players get talked about as money and guinea pigs. I think that's because people might know Jack Grealish. You don't necessarily know who owns or who is the executive or whatever at Manchester City sort of thing. So I do 100% agree with you. And I think it's harsh with footballers when you look at things like COVID with respect to all other athletes. For me, I think footballers were the first out there trying to help the disadvantaged and people that were stuck in a sort of way. Even it's completely different, but you look at what Marcus Rashford is doing and whatnot. And I just look at it like that. And I just see a lot of, when it comes to agent, I just know there's a lot of, away from the football club, a lot of image rights, because then you've got to deal with the companies. And a lot of companies I see you put on Instagram and condemn them. You've got stuff like that as well into it. So I do see a lot of the hidden work that agents and advisors do. I do think we're going into a space, funny enough, where you're going to kind of get your wish. There's still going to be agents, but they're more advisors. I don't think, like what you said, not everyone has an agent. You have less of them. Like I think Sterling's got people who can advise him, but he doesn't actually have an agent anymore. I think Kevin De Bruyne has moved slightly away from that. And I just feel it's about managing your worth, innit? Like you said with the Daniel Ek example about musicians, footballers are not any different. They're a brand. And funny enough, I don't think many footballers know they're a brand, I really don't.
But look, tell me this, DG, like with agents, now, if there's an agent and he knows that Club A is the right move for a player, Club B is actually a bad move for a player, but with Club A, the right one, they're going to make 5 million. With Club B, they're going to make 10 million. An agent, for me, shouldn't be trusted as just a human being to be sort of like left to make the right decision. The way I see it,
that's where the morals come into, of course, 100%.
The human and greed is present in all of us.
Facts.
I think the agent should be capped to say, you're going to make 5 million or 10 million, whatever it is, on both of these transfers, because agent fees should just be a proportion of the transfer fee.
That's how I'm agreeing with that.
You're going to make the same money. So now you have no incentive to make sort of a decision in spite of the player's best interests.
Yeah.
This is where I want to see it get to. And then when you do that, when you take away that greed element from an agent because things are regulated, then you also make sure that you can control how much money is leaving football and then not being cycled within the game. Because the more money gets cycled in the game, the better it is for football.
The more it grows it, yeah.
Yeah, the cheaper it becomes for people on the outside like us.
And that's where I'm like you. It's like for me, I just find myself thinking in my head throughout our conversation, balance. As you know, balance is the key of life. I just feel like you said, agents, you can have conflict of interest, and I think we're also getting into this thing where it's almost like they're almost owners of football in this, not owners of football or clubs, but it's like if I've got Haaland and I've got Mbappe and they're both on my thingies, I might want them both to go to Real Madrid so I can engineer little scenarios and do little things to get the best deal and just control the game. And like you see with some agents, they're actually really involved in football clubs. Like they're probably indirectly making decisions. Like you look at us, don't quite think it's that, but I know a lot of Arsenal fans were scared with Kaya Jarupkin. It's almost like we kind of said at the start, did we, as much as I think Edu and William wanted him and they have to hold their L, what if they didn't want them and, the agent said, come on, Edu, man, I'm your guy as well. Just get this guy in. We'll look after we said, we'll look after you. It's all right, man.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yeah,
the other
literally.
Agents as well, DG, is that they make money when players move. That itself, that dynamic in itself is not healthy. Engineering moves for the sake of moves. Because, so when a player, if I'm an agent and I'm thinking, I fancy another supercar, when a player comes up to me and says, oh, the manager did this, I wasn't happy with this, am I saying, look, be a professional about it, don't worry, these things happen, write it out, prove yourself,
no, we're moving, man.
Leave late, or am I saying, screw him, leave the club, that's unacceptable, you're better than that, you're bigger than that, they're lucky to have you, am I riling him up? Because if I rile him up and I convince him to move, convince him to go on strike, I get another supercar. If I give him the right advice, then I don't make the money. So I just think that we need, rules should exist to drive the right behaviors. And I don't think the rules in football, and especially around agents, are there to drive the right behaviors. But, I think that if we said to people watching right now, are we being naive? Are we being sort of like too idealistic? Do we need to just get with the times and screw it, stop talking about all this? They'd probably say, just shut up, just get on with it, because that's the way
you two are moaning about back in the days and whatnot. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So maybe, maybe we just need to accept that football is actually not sort of a moral industry.
It's not. It's never. It's. I don't think it's ever been. It's never been. And I think just because as the games got richer, it's just got worse. I mean, you look at the Super League. I felt they did the Premier League. Everybody, they did a good job on the fans of really kind of not lying to the fans, but they're making out they're trying to protect the integrity of the game. You're just happy because a bag of money is being made and you haven't got one in your hands. That's it. And I think fans just leverage that. And to go back to your agent thing, one thing that scares me is, I might like to go with your client example. I might have a client, me and you might get on, but you do something I don't like. Now, me and you have a difficult relationship. It doesn't affect the player. This is how I can now, his future can be dictated by me. If I say, fuck you, Mo, he's leaving because I don't like you, that obviously is a problem when agents are deciding things. So it's like you said, but for me, it's about balance. But again, when there's a lot of money to be made, like in industries, like for me, this isn't too different from when you look at Wolf of Wall Street and all of those sort of things. It's like there's too much money to be made. And you made an important point. It's like, you can only make money off selling players if you're not going to get a contract renewal. And how many of your players are going to renew contracts, and especially for big money? So it's like you're going to engineer things. You're going to be a bit sinister. But at the same time, I also think a good agent can make a difference. As you see, there's a lot of times we look at football clubs and players, and I'm sure you do, and you're like, how's he there? What's going on there? And likewise, you look at a player and you're like, what is he doing with his career? Sometimes I think these agents are quite slack. Like Smith Rowe's agent's quite good. That's why he's kind of taking time. There's been numerous examples of Arsenal youngsters who've, they've got how do I make it make sense? An overinflated ego, and your agent's telling you the best thing since sliced bread. And then obviously humble pie hits everyone in life when you're like that. But I'm really, I'm more onto the owners of the clubs, because for me, fundamentally, it all trickles down. If you lot weren't like this, then where's the money for the agents and the people below it and whatnot? But I like you said, it just needs to be swept up. And maybe it's because we're Arsenal fans, we're, with Arsene Wenger, we were not sold this, but we were big on the utopia of a level playing field. It can't ever be that, can it? Like, do you ever think football will be a level playing field? Like, literally a level. Obviously, some people be richer and whatever, but yeah.
I do like sports. That's, there's not many things I'll praise about America, but one of the things I like about America is how they do their draft system in sports, where the worst team gets the first pick. I quite like that. It's forever trying to like level that playing field, which I really do like. But I don't think that it will ever happen. Kind of what you're saying, where it will be a level playing field, and perhaps that's just the nature of competition. Like, it would be nice if the rules tried to address that and make things more competitive. I think it's nicer when you don't know who's going to win next year, rather than saying it's definitely going to be one of these 4 clubs. But I think that would take a significant amount of time to change it to that extent that we're in that place.
When you say that, and it made me ask this, because I kind of don't know where I stand. Do you think, the whole carrot of the Premier League is it's competitive, everyone can win it every year, and there's been a couple of winners, teams struggle to retain the title. Do you think it really is that competitive though, when you kind of get into the nuts and bolts? Do you think the Premier League, that carrot doesn't really make sense about competitiveness? Because certain teams have kind of got stability in the league, and there probably won't be an issue. Like you said, in America, you look at basketball or whatever, it's one team will win it one year, the other team win it the next year. The players are moving around all the time. It's quite crazy.
Yeah, it is quite crazy. And also the other thing about America is that the players don't have to sacrifice on education, because they get to do their education and then they go professional, which I think is brilliant, because in this country, players at a very young age have to decide between getting educated and following their dreams to become a professional footballer.
Facts.
And then the sad thing is, it ties in with the Asian thing, that because they're not armed with the education and the financial education, they defer to agents who don't always have their best interest at heart. That's another problem as well. Look, this one is getting a bit more sort of like deep, but
no, go on, man. This is fantastic.
My background is that I'm Pakistani heritage. Yeah. And I remember one thing that hit me. I was about 14, 15 years old. I went to the cinema with my cousins in Lahore in Pakistan. And as we left the cinema, my cousin said, we were going to go the back way to get a cab rather than walking the long way around the front. So I was like, cool. Went the back way, and I saw these grown men just lying on the floor. And I was like, what are they doing? Why are they lying there? And they were like, what do you mean? I was like, why?
Yeah, they're sort of anonymous to it, innit? It's hit you because you're not really,
Yeah, but they were just like they just thought it was a dumb question. I kind of say, like, yeah, but why aren't they like, how tired were they? They needed to have a nap right there. They were like, oh no, that's where they live. And I was like, oh right, okay. Like I hadn't really seen that before.
You're shocked from it, yeah.
And they literally, I remember to this day, they'd taken their shoes off and their shoes were by their head, because if someone tried to steal their shoes, they would wake up.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, as a 14-year-old, like, wow, I'm walking past these guys. I've got a mobile phone in my pocket. I've got more money in my pocket than these guys have at their age. That put things into perspective for me. And then that has always stayed with me in terms of what true poverty is. One day I discovered in this country that there's actually a charity in the UK that is designed to help ex-professional footballers that have now fallen on hard times. And with the context of what I saw in Pakistan that day, the context of true poverty, I thought to myself, I cannot believe that ex-professional footballers are given charitable money because they were unable to budget and plan their finances effectively
and look after it. Yeah, because a lot of them are. It's not true poverty like that. A lot of them are coming from council estates or disadvantaged backgrounds, and they're almost treated like a piece of meat. Like if you had, like, you've got a son, by God's grace, he's a footballer and he plays for Arsenal. If he is a talented footballer, I see it all the time. By the age he's 13, 14, your family can be set for life. The financial things that get thrown in, because it's pennies to these clubs. Suddenly Nike, Puma, this club, that sponsor, this, that, and the third. It is quite immoral, and a lot of the parents aren't financially stable, and a lot of it is, as it might not even be that. I'm struggling right now. I need to pay my bills right now. I need to do something right now. So if my son is able to do something like that, it doesn't really mean anything. And that's where it's down to the environment. Like I look at someone like Amari Hutchinson. I've done an interview with him. I know he comes from a very well-rounded family. Like football is key. He's got a growth mindset. Football is very key. But they've taught him that if you are to make this money in football, you've got to look after it. You've got to do other things and stuff like that. But the sad thing is, for every one of him, I can't tell you too many other examples I have of that.
Yeah, but you make a really, really good point, because the sharks, they start circling very quickly if you've got a talented footballer. The point is, when we're going back to regulation, in the wider world, they changed company regulation that you have to offer a pension, and employees have to opt out, whilst before it was an opt-in. So you had to actively say, yes, I want to contribute to a pension. Now you have to actively say, no, I do not want to contribute to a pension.
Because of this sort of stuff.
That is huge, because they know that when you're it's an aging population, when people are old, if they don't have the money to sustain their lifestyle, that falls on the state and it becomes a problem. Or, you need charities and that sort of thing. With football, when I'm talking about regulation, it should be, in my opinion, regulation that clubs don't pay players 100% of their contracted salary. 2% or whatever it might be goes to a pension pot. And these players, they get that upon retirement. Not at 65 with normal people or whatever. They get that on retirement. It's a joke.
That's a fantastic point. I know United used to do something like that.
Oh, right. Okay. That's cool.
Well,
yeah.
Ferguson was on. Not exactly like that, but Ferguson used to do something along them lines of, at a certain age, you can't really get all your finances. You got to hit certain things.
Yeah, it's shocking to me that players, who are earning so much money can then get caught up in gambling and this and that and the other and then lose all of their money. That should not be happening in a society or in an industry that's there to protect the stars and to protect the players.
That's the thing.
So, yeah, I just think there's quite a few things in football that I would love. I would love to be part of that review. That is,
you should definitely be involved in something like that. You got something to give, man.
Yeah, I mean, because ultimately people. How much sincerity is really there? I look at the Hale End boys because I'm an Arsenal fan, but I'm talking about for all youngsters. But it would really hurt me if Bukayo Saka, for example, was broke one day. I know he comes from a really good, well-rounded family. He's smashed his academics and everything like that. That's great. Emil Smith-Rowe, he's really, really close to his family. I've spoken to his family at away games and that sort of thing. So good for them. Alhamdulillah for them that they've got that around them. But not everyone does.
Not everyone's got that 100%. And certain things certain people don't even know. It's like you said, I think the problem is, I can't remember the saying, but there's a saying specifically around boredom. And people don't deep it. A lot of footballers are bored. You look at a lot of the stories, like I remember, is it Stephen Colker? I think he was 18, 19. He went on loan somewhere. It could have been Swansea. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Obviously, he's getting a lot of money. He's on loan. He's in his flat. He's alone in his flat. Just like that, he said he's looked out his window. There's a casino or something. Yeah. That's it now. It's happened like that. So, like you said, education is the key, and it's like I don't think a lot of clubs care. Like, they tell you they care. They might give you the blanket statement. They might bring us all in a class, but they won't do a thing like, Mo, do you really understand this? How did you get it? Like, what is your plans for when your footballing career is done? It's a one-touch approach. It's like you said with the education. They'll make them do the BTECs and whatnot, and then throw them to the side. Yeah, exactly. And it's just that it just upsets me that actually happens to players. I think it needs to be, because we are talking about regulation in loads of different areas, but I think this one should really, really be nipped in the bud from young, and players should not be allowed, in a way, I know it sounds maybe a bit draconian, they should not be allowed to be in poverty when they're older. So it is in their best interest ultimately. It is, but yeah, I mean, look, I guess we're going a bit deeper, aren't we, in terms of... Yeah, it was a fantastic chat, man. Oh, yeah, my word. I mean, this sort of general, I don't know. Chat. And to add to that as well, what I would say is a lot of them as well, they probably can't see past their nose, because at 16, I don't want you to be naive, but you probably think, like that, man. I got forever. I'm going to be 35 in a million years. That's not going to happen. Yeah, and then, boom, it's crazy. It's absolute madness. Yeah, and you must feel on top of the world, man. You must feel on top of the world. Imagine earning $100,000 a week. That's just absolutely ridiculous. And you must not even be used to thinking of real things, like not actually having any worries. How can you think about not being able to maintain your life when you are literally struggling to think of what to spend your money on? It's hard to go from that mentality to the complete 180. It's easier for us guys in the middle ground. Like, I don't think to myself, what can I spend my money on? When I'm buying new tires for my car, I'm still looking for a good deal. So I'm still in the norms of reality, but these players aren't. So it's very hard for them to ever think that actually I'm not invincible. And the other thing, like you were talking about, going back to your flat and being bored, this is what people don't realize as well. Do you know, earlier we were talking about the billionaire and saying that why would a billionaire do that? The fact is, when you're that wealthy, you have time. When you don't have time is when you need to earn your money. This is Footballers, they train from
maybe would you say 10 or 11
9,
a.m.
10. If you ain't got double session, you're done at 1. You got the whole day.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're working for like maybe 3-4 hours a day, the whole thing going from your house door back to your house door. The rest of the time you're looking for things to do. You're kind of bored. That's why they're playing Fortnite all the time. But a lot of players get sucked into gambling. We have got no idea how widespread it is. And so there's a lot of players who might be earning 50 grand a week. Yeah, there might be players earning 100 grand a week, but they're losing thousands of pounds a week, and we're not hearing about it. So, there's a lot of protections that aren't in place, in my opinion, for footballers.
And that's why I admire the likes of Raheem Sterling, Ryan Bertrand, because they've got a lot of stuff. I know certain Arsenal fans don't want to hear it, but this is why I really admire Hector Bellerin, because football means a lot to you. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to him. But fundamentally, there has to be something else to your life. Now, in a direct footballing consequence, Bellerin's going to, do his fashion stuff. He's got other things. PK's got the same as well. So it is scary, man. It is really scary. And again, indirectly, it's down to the advisors you've got around you. You've got a good advisors around you. They sit there and they say, listen, why don't you put your money into this? Why don't you invest into that rather than nonsense? A good agent actually does a lot of that stuff, especially the welfare. A lot of agencies have welfare departments for that stuff. So you're right on that, man. Yeah. To go back to Man City, Arsenal, though. Go on. I cut you off. Carry on. No, man, it's a good chat.
No, I was going to say, but it's tough. It's tough for footballers because more often than not, when a footballer is approached, it's because people want something. They're not offering something. They're trying to take something. And footballers, very, very quickly, they realize that actually you've got to be very guarded because, I guess that's just the nature of people, aren't they? They sense opportunity.
That's just how they are, and it's scary. And I just think it's about, if nothing more, the same way you've got these guys in your academies at 8-9 years of age, you're doing training. Just start planting little seeds from then, like just the little seeds. And as they get older and older, and it might start happening to them, because I'm sure a lot of these footballers, like with Saka, I'm sure Saka's, he got 8 stars. I'm sure there's a lot of things he could do with, I don't know, art, business, accounting. He could do a lot of things with that. I personally feel not enough players start off enough proper agencies. A lot of players realize, I don't really like the coaching thing. I can make a lot of money being an agent. I don't really see a lot of integrity. I think there's something with welfare there and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was going to ask you finally to wrap this up once again in terms of Man City. Is there a way to beat them? Like tactically, is there a way to beat them? Like I know we said we saw City. Is there a way, like a blueprint that we could kind of come with? And I know I'm saying that off the back of we've done it before, but with what's happening now, is there something?
Honestly, I'd say the only way to beat Man City is to let them beat themselves, and you have to hope that they overcomplicate.
What do you mean by that? Because for people who don't know what you're referring to with that,
often I feel like when Man City need to respond, like look, they lost against Tottenham, and I always worry with big teams when they lose a game. Don't watch that game. That can happen. Watch their response. Big teams respond. Man City responded. And I feel like, Man City often they beat themselves by overcomplicating things. They've got such an abundance of talent. But, maybe Arteta's taken this from Pep in a way. But sometimes it's actually a case of, had you just kept it a little bit more simple, then I think you would have been fine. Champions League final is probably the best example possible.
Sometimes 1 + 1 has to equal 2, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with the false 9 thing, for example, at one point it was quite revolutionary. And it makes sense. I think Spain, there was a point where they just didn't have a top striker.
Yeah,
and it kind of makes sense.
Up there at most.
But with City, I feel like the only way to beat them is to hope that they get in their own heads tactically, and then counter-attacking football with truly decisive sort of plays
and whatnot.
Yeah. So, you do need an element of bravery. I don't think against Man City, whether you defend with 10 men or 11 men from a corner is the be all and end all. I don't think that's going to win you the game, but leaving one person up to occupy 2 City players, for example, and sort of like being a little bit unpredictable in terms of where that man is. Like, I wouldn't mind, for example, just as a hypothetical, if Aubameyang is the one up top, but he's not on the halfway line. He's sort of
to the left or the right or something.
No, I'm talking about in an offside position.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm feeling you on that. Just that's really unpredictable. And they're like, what's going on there? Yeah, you're right on that.
Yeah, well, you just make them think that actually the ball's probably not going to go out to Aubameyang straight away for him to do everything himself, but the ball's probably going to go out to someone like a Pepe or a Saka, who then, if they can counter, Aubameyang is all by himself. You're going to be chasing back to him. Now, I'm just saying, not do that every single time, but think of some different ways of making them think, making defend. Like, you have to knock them off of their rhythm a little bit. So making them
something they didn't account for.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying that even if Aubameyang does that and then drops into an offside position, but he's not actually the outlet, he's set up to be the faux outlet, that sort of thing. You have to think outside the box, and it has to be very, very direct and sort of decisive counter-attacking football. That's my only way that I see any joy against City.
Truthfully, I only asked you that because I tried to answer it myself. Couldn't find a conclusion, mate. So I asked you. I know I said real last question now. Transfer market. Now, as much as we're quite negative in terms of ingoings and outgoings, there is alleged movement with Willian going Corinthians, Torreira's gone. You'd imagine Eddie and Nketiah and Reece Nelson. Where are you at with that? You confident of incomings? What would you want?
I just
if you could only have one thing.
Willian out, man. That's what I want, honestly. But look, Torreira's gone. Obviously, that's a good start. Even though I really like him, I can't believe that he hasn't been a success. You know, I thought he was a proper specialist in that position, and you know, it's a position for me that needs a specialist. But I don't know why it didn't work. But I really hope it works for him at Fiorentina. I really do. But what I would say is that if we can get rid of Willian, if we can maybe shift Kolasinac out, a couple more maybe, I'd like to see an incoming, but it needs to be a right back for me. I think that's a really, really important one. I would love to see Bissouma. You know, I just do not understand why it's not happening. You know, Liv's
right there for the taking, man.
You know, Liv's Ledge. He was in an event with Bissouma. And so I caught up with Livs and said,
"Oh, don't do this. You're going to tell me how on it Bissouma was, isn't it?"
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, so, my God.
You know, and yeah, I just find it frustrating. It just seems like such an obvious one. But why are we not doing it, man? If Man United signed, even if Man United signed Bissouma, they would be better off. They would be better as a team. Never mind Arsenal. We'd obviously be better off.
Liverpool want him. And what we
Liverpool did, yeah. He's a brilliant, brilliant player, in my opinion. So, man, come on. I want a right back. I want Bissouma. But, you know, I can go through that list of transfers that have happened that we did not go for, that frustrates the hell out of me this season. We could have a decent squad, and unfortunately we haven't.
That's like me. It's like as much as we, Arteta and Edu, I feel there's a lot of inherited problems. It's like we see the inherited mess and we say, you know, we've got 10 problems. Let's make it 20 now. It just feels like when there's something so obvious, and obviously I give the club, you know, I'm just looking at ours as a fan. That's 25 million euros. It seems like it can be done, but it just feels like when something's so obvious, Arsenal don't do it. Like Curtis Shaw once said, it just seems like I don't know. It's just that we love to go against the grain unnecessarily.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Honestly, I've always found that. Like, I went to an AGM once, and I said this to Ivan Gazidis to his face, you know, as part of the audience, and I said to him that when we were the only club in Europe's top 5 leagues, where we were the only club not to sign an outfield player, do we truly believe that we think that we were right and everyone else was wrong, or do we believe that actually, do you know what? Perhaps it was a failing on our part. You know, why was it that it was Arsenal? And it's exactly as you say, sometimes we go against the grain, we don't do the really obvious things.
Like sometimes, like I said, football's a complicated game. You know, there's a lot of simple things that look simple, but you can't explain. But I feel sometimes 1 + 1 has to equal 2. Like you just have to do basic things. Before I let you go, you've got a question, and I don't want to let Raymond down. He says, "Hey Mo, what are your thoughts on the Jack Wilshere interview with The Athletic?"
Heartbreaking, man. It really, really it touched me because, you know, what a player he was. He really, really was a player. And I'm not one of these people that likes to, you know, look at history all the time and basically that performance against Barcelona, know,
to nostalgia in that.
Yeah, when I do things like that, it actually doesn't make it heartwarming for me. I find it really disappointing that. Is that what we go back to? That should not have been the most memorable moment of Jack Wilshere's career. You know, it's an unfulfilled career, and I really, really feel for him. I don't know why he has not been given an opportunity, but he mentioned in that interview, and I need to watch it all to see whether Ornstein got more out of what Jack Wilshere said there, but he said maybe it's bad references. And
yeah, it probably is.
But what does that mean, Deluded? Does that mean bad references in terms of character or in terms of injuries or what? I don't get it. Like, why would he be getting bad references?
I think when he said, like I said, I'd have to listen to it. But I think when he meant references, it's the sentiment around you. It's like when you say a player's got a chip on their shoulder, you say something enough times, it's held in high regard. So I think that's something that's gone with Wilshere. And I think it's just people have said, don't go on him, glass ankle, whatever. And I kind of understand it. But for me, I see what he's coming from, because I remember his year where he went to Bournemouth and then he came back at Arsenal and he's actually all right. That same injury thing was still to him, to the point where, at times he's injured, but sometimes it's got nothing to do with the recurring injury, like he said in that interview as well. So I think it's one of them. I think it's just good player. They just know it's probably a lot of baggage. And if I'm honest with you, I know he'll go on a play as you pay deal, but it's probably hard enough running a football club, owning a football club, managing week to week, and then you've got to deal with, is Wilshere going to be fit or enough? And it kills me to say it, because I would take him back at Arsenal regardless. It's upsetting, man. He's a great player, been robbed.
The way I see it, man, I really feel for him. It's a real shame that, his kid was saying, people come up to me at school talking about Jack Wilshere.
Kids, man.
But that's playground stuff. Kids can be cruel. That's a part of life. But it's just upsetting to me that Jack Wilshere finds himself in that position. The two things that I did really like, though, was the open, honest nature of that interview. You rarely see that in football. People are so guarded, so media trained that you don't get that. And in a way, it's sad, because Jack is probably on his sort of like got nothing to lose mindset for him to do an interview like that, which is a shame, because I'd rather he had something to lose, because that would mean that he'd be in a club right now, But the other thing that I loved off the back of that was the messages and the outpouring of support, and
especially from our academy
inspirational sort of quotes that players were giving, that how much Jack Wilshere inspired them, how much he made them believe that it was possible to come out of that academy and make the first team. Even Bukayo Saka, probably, our most brightest prospect right now at the academy. He said the same. So many people have said that. And so you can never underestimate what Jack Wilshere did. He
influence on others, possible.
Absolutely, yeah. And, there's this amazing story about Roger Bannister, right? He was the first man to run a 4-minute mile. And I won't go into that now because we're hour and 20, but look into that. Look into the story of Roger Bannister. Sometimes you need to see someone else do something to be able to believe it yourself. Jack Wilshere was that trailblazer. I love him. I wish him all the best. And what I'd actually like to see him do is go and play in America. Go and play in China.
Just about to say that.
Yeah, go and play in the Middle East, wherever it is. Go and rediscover your mojo. For example, Inter Miami. Surely he can go and play there.
I think Jack Wilshere is probably the best in MLS, unless there's some world-class retired legends there, which I don't think there is off the top of my head. So, yeah.
So David Beckham, if you're watching this, get on the phone to Jack Wilshere, put him in centre midfield into Miami, please.
And exactly, give the guy a career. This is just a little theory of mine personally. I think Wilshere will be a very good manager, whether it's at Arsenal or elsewhere, because I just feel that whole pressure of not having his career and falling short, I think that will kind of drive him to have a career as a gaffer. And I remember hearing about him and Holding doing their coaching courses. I don't know if he's got any intention. He might have been doing that to pass the time. That's just a little theory I have personally, man.
Well, listen, he's not black, so he stands a chance. I see Sol Campbell struggling.
Fair play. People won't get how crude that joke is, and it's so true. I mean, that's another thing, man. That's a whole nother thing. He won't struggle in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, Wayne Rooney, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard.
Lampard got the job of doing nothing. What did he get the Derby job for? Like, at least Gerrard can say I did under 18.
Yeah, but you look at Sol Campbell. He went to Macclesfield, tasked with helping them survive. He survived. They survived.
And he still didn't get looked at as a manager.
And I just kind of feel like maybe I'm reading between the lines too much, but I see on Sol Campbell's Instagram stories, that sort of thing. Sometimes there are subtle messages out there. I feel like he wants an opportunity. He's just not getting one, and it happens way too often. So, Jack Wilshere, at least he's got the right skin tone.
He's after way there. He'll get an opportunity. He'll get an opportunity, and it'll take a while before we see if he's good or bad, man. But Mo, listen, man, it's been great being here, man. Obviously, I've almost forgot what we're playing. We're playing tomorrow, so if you haven't subscribed to Mo's channel, subscribe. I'll be doing my post-game reaction on that like I always do and whatnot. So man, let's let's hope City versus Arsenal is positive for us Arsenal fans, people. If not, it's another day in the life, man. But Mo, I've appreciated having you here, man. It really is a lot. You know, I've probably kept you 24 minutes too late on this lovely Friday, so apologies for that.
We always do that, but that's always because the conversation kind of, to me, it always feels better than just the basic, oh, this is the match preview, this is the match. You know, it's this sort of thing. Like we
started talking about agents and contracts, and man, it was fascinating, man.
I love that. Football is a lot more than just what happens on the pitch, and we've scratched some of that today. I really enjoyed it myself. I hope people watching enjoyed it too.
Come on, like I said, I can't imagine you haven't, but you know, his titles, his YouTube channels in the title. Subscribe. Like I said, post-match reviews on Deluded Cannon. Make sure you're subscribed and following on both. And yeah, we got to love and leave you lot. Enjoy what's left of your Friday.
Always just that active red flag, defending. I think it's like